round 175. I feel like
That-
there's a word for that, like bicentennial is something, but 175. I don't know, it feels like there should be something.
Yeah.
1 3/4 centennial.
Mhm.
I don't know, something.
But it's cool. That's a huge amount of things to have done. So that's
That's way
hardcore.
cool. Yeah, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So we did Artcasters on Monday, but we took a week off prior to that.
I know.
And so
Feels
yeah, this is our
hurt.
first. I know it's funny when you do this 2 or 3 times a week. It just missing a couple shows feels like it's months, but it's really just a few days.
Mhm.
So yeah. Okay, so should we jump in here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. What have you gotten done in the last little bit?
All right. So I finished the type pencils for this page, and now I'm at this point where I have the first panel inked, and then the next panel. I have a ton of work to do tonight. I'm gonna start working on the crowd, and probably by the next time we do it, maybe I'll have finished this guy. But
Cool.
much closer. So
That's awesome. I've gotten a little bit further on some client projects that I'm under NDA for, so I can't really show those. It's been a little slow though, but I also have received my first rejection from a film festival, so that's a milestone.
sweet.
You always have people like frame their rejection letters, but it's literally just a little icon, so I don't know how to frame it, but yeah, so I have that rejection, and I'll find out on the 20th if I get my second. So, yeah. Other than that, I've been doing a little writing, and so I have a.
Wait, I have to compliment you on that chart. That's very cool. Good way to kind of measure the progress.
Oh, that's not my chart. This is Film Freeway.
Oh.
And so these are just the ones that I've submitted to, and they keep track of it for you. So it's like Film Freeway is like a film festival broker, basically. And so, yeah, they actually beat out Amazon. Amazon had a website that they purchased that was doing something similar. Without a Box, it was called. And Film Freeway is kind of independent.
Wow.
From what I understand it, and they beat Goliath, so it's kind of cool. Without a Box shuttered last year, and Film Freeway is still standing. So
that's really exciting. That's cool. I had no idea that was through like a thing. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's cool because you can go in and like you just like click browse festivals, and you can like dial stuff in. You're like, give me only open stuff with animation, stuff that has an entry fee of like less than $15. They've been around for longer than 7 years or whatever. And you can do region. I mean, and it just kind of dials it in for you. And then you can like sort by most popular, best reviewed, or, early next deadline approaching or whatever. And it just like resorts everything for you. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. I don't know. I a lot of this is just, I'm just kind of interested in what this process is like and what it'll do. So this is kind of my experimental thing. So there's some challenges that probably spills into challenge as well a little bit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I mean it's good, but then I started wondering, like, is that short actually any good? Like, have I just wasted like 6 weeks of my life and a couple $100 in submission fees for something that sucks? But I actually think it's good. So, but yeah. So anyway, so I know I sound upbeat about the rejection, but it is a bummer.
Yeah, it hurts every time, and that's one of the reasons people like do the framing of rejection letters or whatever. It doesn't cease to hurt. Everybody wants the first publisher that gets their work, or first like festival to be like, you're amazing.
Right.
But it's also kind of cool, and it's earning your stripes. So,
Yeah.
better to have a rejection than nothing. Like if you had nothing from that festival, that's worse than a rejection.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I know that some jury of my peers somewhere has watched my film now. So they didn't like it enough for their thing, but like they've seen it, which is cool.
And you never know. Maybe one guy on that jury was like, dude, this is brilliant. I don't know what's wrong with all you guys.
Right. Yeah. So
yeah, that's
anyway.
cool.
Yeah.
I still will say congrats though, because that is earning. Like I said, it's better to get that than nothing.
Yeah, for sure. So, how about challenges for you?
So just like utter exhaustion, and like the work life family balance thing has been really challenging as usual, but it just feels like an extra drag of challenging this week. That's the best way to explain it. So haven't really been feeling it, which might tie into our little topic, but
yeah, that's a good tie-in. Challenges for me, several things I won't mention publicly that are stressful, and then kind of not feeling it as well, but mainly it's because probably for a different reason. I'm in that transitionary stage, and I don't transition projects well, and so I'm doing client work. I'm pretty busy at work, and then I've been kind of taking a few days off, and I think it's been good. It's been rejuvenating, but I think I'm approaching that time where it'll turn into procrastination soon. So I'm just trying to be very self-aware of that, because I like the idea of a break at certain points in time, but other points in time it becomes a problem. I don't think this one is a problem.
Yeah.
And I have been using some time to like write and prepare for upcoming projects and review my notes of other projects. So it's kind of just a little bit of a transitionary thing, but I am kind of like, I think I'll just play video games for 4 hours tonight instead of do something. So
that's but I feel like not to justify it entirely, but it's like I do feel like the client work you do have right now is pretty intense, and so like that on top of your day job is a lot to balance already.
Sure.
It might not be bad to like have a little recoup time and then hit it, hard once you wrap up maybe one of the client jobs, and then that might give you a better window.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And
it sounds like you're doing some work in the meantime to kind of get the next thing geared up, so that's important too.
Yeah, I think I want to do. I'll talk about this during plans, but I think I want. One of the things that's been really eating at me is there are a few people that are really excited to see my animated short, and I'm not showing it publicly. And so, like, people are being respectful, but it's also like I want to show people who want to see it. And so I've had several people reach out and say, "Hey, man, whenever you show it, let me know, because I don't want you to, blow your chances of anything, but I'd love to see it, And anyway, so that's kind of hard. So this next one that I'm going to do, I'm not doing it for awards. I'm not doing it for competition. I'm just going to show it, and I've got actually kind of a cool plan that'll do some cool stuff. So anyway, we'll talk about that during plans. But what are your plans?
Oh, before I get into plans, maybe make that a plan. But if like you get like 4 acceptance on this round, then maybe you should continue the circuit. So, hit that momentum. So, like, my plan is to probably get that crowd scene panel inked, and I'm hoping. I mean, ideally, I'd like to get the page inked by Monday, because
cool.
think that should be achievable. But I'm going to say finishing that crowd panel because it's just every phase of it has taken longer than I've estimated. So the rough pencils took 2 days longer than I estimated. The tight pencils took 2 days longer. So I'm like, this might be one of those. So, but I'm gonna try to get the whole, but promise the second.
Yeah, well, that'd be awesome. And I mean, you got to finish strong. So if it takes you a couple extra days, it's fine. Yeah.
And there is a client job that I was hoping to wrap up this last weekend, and I didn't. So I need to wrap that up this weekend. So that'll be fun. Yeah, that's my plan.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say this plan publicly because I actually really enjoy sharing my process and the results of my process. So my plan is I'm going to do a series of short scenes describing resistance visually. And instead of doing a short film where I have like 40 different shots that I need to all put together before they make sense, I'm going to do like a bunch of short scenes that, if strung together, they make sense, but can also be viewed separately. And for example, it's going to be about a writer, and I'm going to have him walk into his room and sit down and type. And that's going to be what's going to happen every single time. But in the process of trying to get to his typewriter, you're going to see animated characters that represent resistance. And I'm just going to go through all of the different types of resistance that are in the War of Art, and that I've experienced, and that other artists that I've talked to have experienced, and try to find visual representations of those things. And so, and each time, because this is going to be my positive project for this time in my life, because my last one was really dark. Each time he's going to overcome the resistance. And so and then if I get a significant number of these done, that makes sense, at the end of all of these strung together, he'll have a finished book. And so that's kind of, but I'll be able to share each one as I finish it. So everybody will get to watch the creation of this as we go.
That's very exciting. And I think that'll be actually a good kind of didactic type cartoon too.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So it'll be fun. And then in the short term, I've got 24 submissions, one rejection of those, so 23 left. But I'm still going to be combing through this site looking for, looking for festivals that kind of match my short. And so if I go over here and I've got this, you can kind of like just submit with this. And so I'm just going through, and I'm going to do the marketing and continue that aspect of it, and try to get I'm still going to try to make this thing work. And I still think it's good, and I think it's going to be a good fit for a number of these festivals. So yeah. So we'll see where it goes. But I'm going to be doing those two things at the same time, and then continuing with my client work and possibly some other things. I've got a few other things in the works. I tend to start a number of projects until one kind of emerges as the winner, and then I kill the others. But I'm pretty sure I like this one.
Yeah.
More than a couple of the others I've got. So we'll see.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I think it's good though. It's cool too because it's a risk, and I think that's good.
Yeah.
Because you try to every once in a while.
Yeah. So it'll be good. And I haven't done animation mixed with live action. And so there's some challenges that over the next couple of weeks, I will have to learn several things that I have no idea what to do. Mm-hmm. I always like projects like that because I have zero clue how to do motion tracking on live video.
Yeah.
Especially something that's difficult like a face. And so like I'm already imagining like this like kind of character like pulling at your eyes and like you trying to throw him off. So there'll be a lot of like live action movement that's mixed with the animation. The animation's got to track with it. And I just don't know how to do that. So
That's crazy ambitious.
Yeah. Yep. That's I usually swing for the fences and hit a double. Which is, better than not. But yeah, Kayla has actually done some motion tracking, so I might have to pick her brain a little bit.
I love it. Kind of
yeah. Sorry, I'm like tired, so I'm not being succinct.
No worries. So I think that pretty much wraps it, right?
Yeah, that's the check.
Yeah. We're supposed to be checking on exercise. I'll just keep it short and say I've been staying consistent. And that's about it.
I've been stressed to the point of not exercising, but I have maintained my intermittent fasting, and I am down 12 pounds. So that's nice. I'm down to 174 from 186. So
that's huge. So that's a much bigger loss than last time. So
yeah,
that's a big step.
Yeah. So it's consistent. I'm consistently heading in the right direction. But
it's good. Make sure you do exercise though, because it helps with stress.
Yeah, I know.
Self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like the lack of exercise will make you more stressed, and then so.
But Rocket League and Borderlands and Just Cause 3 are so much easier than pull-ups.
So, and sometimes you do need something that's just to zone out and not think for a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like us with the eternal thought thing.
Yeah. I have read the first 3 books of Percy Jackson in the last 2 weeks. So that's been fun.
Nice. Are they good?
Yeah. I mean, my daughter's really into them. And so I've been reading them with her, but they're fun. They're better than I thought they would be.
Cover illustrator I have gotten multiple conversations with at that.
Yeah. That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I like the covers. They're cool.
Yeah.
So, all right. Should we do our topic?
Let's rock it.
Okay. Why don't this one's yours? So why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, and we'll keep it kind of short, but because I think we're both kind of in that life stage of exhausted right now. So what kind of ran across my mind was, just because I've been coming across this a lot recently, hearing this phrase of "I'm not feeling it," and that to me rings a bunch of like red flags. It bothers me on all kinds of levels, and yet I've also been in multiple stages when I've worked on art where I've not been feeling it. But there's a thing that kind of bothers me about it. I've been trying to kind of hone down on what it is that bugs me about it. And I think it's partially because I think there's an important distinction between feeling and reality. And while feeling is important, and feeling is a huge part of like emotional intelligence, even sensing feeling as opposed to like action. And that's super important. But I just feel like there's something very strange going on currently where the whole not feeling it suddenly becomes like equivalent to, I don't know, having like an illness that, takes you out of the game, or like getting in a car accident.
So you're talking about people saying, "I'm not feeling it," as if that's a valid reason to not be a professional and produce work.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I just want to bring this home, because I think that there is a myth out there that you've got to be feeling it. The muse has to strike. You've got to be inspired to do creative work. And that's not how professionals operate. Like, if you have a day job, you're making money. People are counting on you to do stuff. You have a job to do, and if you don't show up, your team, suffers because you are a part of that team that is producing. If you are vomiting and contagious, that is a reasonable and valid reason to not show up to work. But if you just wake up and you're like, man, just not feeling it today, and so you just don't go to work, like, I've known people like that, and I'm always like, what happened in your life that seemed like an option? Like like how have you gotten to this point as an adult where you think that you can just like not do what people are counting on you to do?
Yeah.
Translate that to art, to music, to anything that like you do professionally. Not feeling it is a struggle. It's a challenge, but it isn't a reason to not show up and do your work.
Yeah. And I think what it brings to mind is like the not feeling it thing is how I felt today when I got home before I did my workout.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't feeling it. When I get done with this and I have to sit down and finish inking more of that panel, I'm not feeling it. I'm already not feeling it.
Right.
9 times out of 10, I'm not feeling it. And so, and I mean that sincerely, like in the way that I think that phrase means, like where it's just like, I'm just really not into it. I'm not in the mood. I don't have the motivation, all of that. So I guess the part that bothers me when I hear that phrase used as like kind of a reason for not doing it is I don't think anything would get done. Anything good would get done if people waited till they kind of felt it,
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think one of the misconceptions is that you always have to be inspired to do art.
Yeah.
And another misconception is that there are people who are creative and there are people who are not creative. There are people who have fostered and grown their creativity to where it becomes a practice that they can enact.
Yeah.
And there are other people who have given into the educational system and have had that squashed out of them. But either of those situations, you can decide to be creative, and there are a series of practices that will help get you inspired. But very rarely does anything of any lasting value happen because, like lightning strikes and you're just like on fire. And, I mean, you can get a drawing out that way. You can get like a short-term piece every once in a while. But if that's like the only way that you get any productivity done, you're going to be super hit or miss, Yeah. And it's kind of that myth of the rock star artist that kind of came about like during like Jackson Pollock and a lot of those, where they talked about some weird crap. Like if you read like Jackson Pollock describing like, being transported to another plane during his paintings, and his painting isn't about the painting, but it's about the experience that he had while he was painting it, because he felt like he was an out-of-body experience watching someone else paint this painting for him, and then he would travel to other planes and whatever, and the result of kind of that out-of-body experience was this. That makes the production of art feel supernatural and feel somewhat out of our control. But the fact of the matter is that while I do believe that there are like extra elements beyond the physical that are helping us, we are very much in control of whether we produce or not, and whether the quality that we bring to the table is there, and the ethic and the timing and the consistency. So that whole concept of like lightning striking and the muse and the genius and all of that is so detrimental to productivity.
Well, and like, so here's the thing is like, there is a part of the creative process that's like lightning striking.
Sure.
And every once in a while it comes, and then sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But if that feeling is literally the only thing driving you to create art, you're going to have a lot of trouble with follow through, because it's not all feeling.
Yeah.
And that's, that goes for Jackson Pollock too, because it's like you read that by Pollock and it's like a lot of people are like, oh, he just splatted paint. And it's like, yeah. But the guy produced an insane amount of work.
Right.
He spent hours upon hours upon hours in his studio. He had figured out this whole process to do those weird paintings. Like, he figured out that like if he put on like Charlie Parker, it got him in the mood. So he'd like put on Charlie Parker and like dance around. It's kind of cool to see, actually, weirdly enough. But point being, this guy with this supposed improvisational thing also had a really blue collar method of creating art, in the sense of like he showed up, he spent hours, did the work, clocked out, showed up, spent hours, did the work, clocked out.
And that's I think the part of that story that gets missed is people grab the sensational and surreal aspects of art, and they don't understand that, like, the daily punching of the clock. Like you show up to work. It's kind of like, I was just, as you were talking, I was thinking like, what's a good analogy? Prior to the internet really being a thing, right? It was around, but it wasn't really a thing. If you wanted to hear a song, you had to do one of three things. You had to spend money to buy the entire album, which if you were in my situation, that wasn't an option. Or you had to have the radio on to the right channel all the time. And then you hope that once or twice you happen to have had the radio on long enough to where that song hits.
Mm-hmm.
Or then, this is when MTV actually had music videos, you would turn MTV on and hope that the music video came on. Those were your options. That was it. Later, people could do like mixtapes, and you'd have somebody who would sit with their cassette recorder and the radio, and you would get like, you'd miss the first couple seconds of the song, and then you get, whatever, but like somebody records it. But I mean, that was it. And my point is,
when they play a full album and you're like, oh yeah, and then I'm just going to try to clip out the commercial breaks real quick.
Right. Yeah. You get your finger hovering on the pause button. What I'm saying is that like that productivity is a lot like that. Like, yes, I cannot control when that song comes on. I can't control a number of factors, but I can put myself into a situation where I will be receptive when it does, because if my radio's off, that song can play all day long and I'm never going to hear it.
Yeah.
Right. And so there is a situation, there is inspiration, and there is lightning striking, and there is a muse, and there is all of that stuff. But if you're not in a situation where you are showing up with a certain work ethic and a certain procedure that you go through to get yourself into a state of mind to where you're able to receive those things, that lightning can be striking all around you. You're not gonna hear it.
Yeah. And then that gets into the same issue of feeling, because if the whole thing is just based on feeling, you're going to end up with a result that's just that.
Yeah.
You're going to get feeling. Okay. Yeah. Well, if that's all you want, then why not just feel like an artist and feel like you have accomplished a lot and feel like you've done all the stuff you want and be content with that. But I think most people, that feeling is not going to sustain itself either, because there's no substance to it. There's no real thing to it. Yeah. I think that's my point, is I think to get a product, like perfect example, I know we make analogies to exercise and stuff, but it makes sense because it's like that's something we both have consciously been trying to do more too. But it's like you can feel like you want to look really fit. You can feel like you want to have like muscles and stuff like that. That's great, but that doesn't really do much. That can be like a little spark that can cause action that'll lead you closer to that result, or it can just be a spark that just dies out, fizzles out. So that to me is, I mean, I don't think there's much more to say about it, but I don't know. I'm curious about what people think in the chats. Do you guys like do you feel like that's too harsh? Do you feel like your own art is, tapping into feelings all the time and it's all based on like when you're feeling it, or do you have to show up and force yourself to do it? Actually, honestly, I'd love to hear from an artist who doesn't like have any trouble feeling. They're just like, I'm in the zone all the time. That'd be kind of amazing.
Yeah, I don't want to go as far as saying that I would be concerned about that person, but I don't know if that person is real.
Yeah. We've talked about this multiple times too. It's like you'll hear this when you hear like people who are like really prolific guitarists or like prolific like sports people. Like pretty much anybody who's got like a skill that people look at and they go, wow, that just looks amazing. And I think the usual idea is like if you watch like a star athlete like have a really good game and they get in that zone where they're just goal after goal after goal, like it's like they're unstoppable. It's like a really perfect momentum. That it looks like magic. It looks like it's something where the person is like has these superior, amazing abilities, and yet it's kind of this fine line of some feeling in that moment that they're probably having mixed with a crap ton of practice and hard work that enabled them to follow that feeling and ride it and just hit like shot after shot,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not usually just something that innately, I don't think most people pick up a ball and just start nailing every shot.
Right.
So,
and I mean, and there are definitely times where I sit down to do the work and I produce a ton more than I normally do at a much higher quality. And there are other times where I sit down to do the work and I'm happy to just incrementally move that project forward over an hour or something. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that I have a lot of control over either of those situations within reason. I mean, if you're like distracting yourself the whole time, if you're sitting in the chair, but you're playing video games or, whatever, you're not really doing anything, that's different. But I mean, if you're doing the work, I mean, there are times when you're on fire and there are times when you're not, but if you're going to be on fire, you're never going to be on fire when you're not at the table. You're never going to be on the fire when you're not doing the work. And so there is that practice, there is that performance, there is that level of, getting ready for that. And then there is kind of the lightning striking where they're hot. And in sports, which I don't follow much of, but like, you have like, we got to strike while the iron's hot, and so that guy's hitting threes right now. So we're just gonna feed that dude while he's hot. He's just gonna drain threes. But it's not like that's like some fluke. It's because he's been showing up every day and doing the work, and then occasionally lightning strikes and you're hot.
Yep.
So my thing is, I think that's good. I think, and maybe this is because I'm tired and I'm usually a little less filtered when I'm tired, but I think my problem is it really annoys me when people use that as an excuse to not do something that they feel like they should do. And I would rather people just be honest and just say, instead of like, oh, I'm waiting for inspiration or I'm having trouble coming up with something to do or whatever, is just say like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
That, and I'd be fine with that. Like, like, I don't want to do this.
Well, that's
like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a choice. But like when you use your feelings as an excuse, it bothers me because it's somewhat hypocritical, because you're like, I want this thing really bad and I can't wait until I finish my project or start my project or whatever. I really want to be a famous whatever, or I really would like people to read this thing. I've got these great ideas. I'm just not feeling it today. And it's like, you don't really care. Yeah. And that's, I think, where it probably comes off as a bit harsh, but it's just like, if you really cared, you would do it when you weren't feeling it. Yeah.
Kayla just said, this is pretty good. 99% of the time I start off not feeling it, but all of a sudden it's 2 hours later and I'm really into the project. That's also why I like having a few projects. If I'm not feeling it one, I can switch. Totally agree. And like, just can't reiterate enough how much I agree. But I mean, the key thing with it too is like I was saying, like, you gotta question your, like, we've talked about this multiple times, and I think we're getting close to wrapping up, but it's like the to consolidate what you're doing by thinking about what your intention is. Like, what's your goal? If your goal with making art is just to feel good, there are way quicker, more effective methods to get a good feeling.
Yeah.
So a feeling is literally the only thing driving you in art. I don't know. I think you might have trouble with substance on that. Whereas I think there's more to it than feeling, and I think a lot of the times there's an end product we're aiming for. And I think if you're aiming for the end product, then that's what you want, and the feelings are a secondary thing or a reaction to that end product, then think about the product more than the feeling. And then
Right.
the feeling will come, especially if you think about the product, because that's how you get there. So,
Yeah. I also think, and this might be a good topic for next time, but I also think along these lines, it's really easy. Well, I don't want to say easy. It is less difficult, less of a challenge if I have clear milestones and a clear process.
yes.
Because if I'm not feeling it, but I know that, on Thursday I better get this thing done, and I know where I left off, and I know what I've got to do today, I do it, right? But if it's ambiguous, and it's kind of in an area where it's like I could go in a number of different directions, or I'm not, like, I think actually this is the first time this has made sense to me. I think this is my problem with finishing projects, is when I finish projects, I slip into a state of ambiguity, because in the middle of a project, I know exactly what I'm doing is I'm working on the next step in that project until it's completed. But when I finish that project, I step into a land where you haven't been for a number of years, and you're going to be soon, where it's like, what?
Finish line?
There's no finish line, because you don't know which race you're going to run. And literally you could go in any direction. Like, you step into, like, kind of the creative's nightmare, which is the land of 100% opportunity. Like, you could literally do anything. It's like death by a billion choices. And oftentimes I just spend a couple days wandering around before I jump in, which I think is good to a certain extent, because I'm going to commit a significant amount of time and effort into something. And I've rushed into things before, and it's been a waste. Yep. But you can also, that could also turn into 10 years of just like, yeah, I finished my book, and now I'm going to.
Well, you have an art check. So if that
right.
10 years, you're going to be hearing some
right. Yeah.
I'm going to be giving you a little bit of grief for that.
Oh yeah. If on Monday, if I haven't started something, I'm sure I'm going to hear from you. So yeah. Right. Let's see. We got a couple good comments. I practice my art, but I don't draw masterpieces every time. I think that's great. And when it's work, my muse is I need to eat this week. Okay, so like, yeah, it's like when you're doing it for money, it does become a little bit easier, because it's one of those situations where it's like, do you want to pay your bills and eat food or not? So that's good. So cool. All right. So where can we find your work?
You can find me at quarterlystories.com or joshuakemble.com. And you can also search on topis.io, search for Quarterly Stories there, and add it to your library, and that'll help me get more readers. And I have yet again fallen behind on updating it on Topis, so I will be doing that. But quarterlystories.com is updated to the page I'm working on. So, but Topis is easier to read on your phone or Android device. Yeah.
Cool.
Where can I find your work, Corey?
You can find me at CoreyKerr.com. Instagram and Twitter is where I'm hanging out. And so if you want to see bits and pieces of the secret projects that I finished that I can't show publicly, you can see a lot of those scenes on Instagram. And if you want to talk about random stuff, you can hang out with me on Twitter. Also, you are on my channel right now. It'd be awesome if you hit that thumbs up because it helps the algorithm. Ring the bell if you want to get notified, all that jazz. And in the description of this video, you'll see Josh's channel. Also, if you would like to stream like we are streaming, you can use StreamYard, and we've got a link to that in the description of this video as well. And if you click on that link, it's free, and you can do lots of stuff. And there's this big ugly duck logo that's on the screen in the upper right-hand corner. And if you want to get rid of the duck logo, you pay them some money, and the duck logo goes away, and you get some extra features. They actually just released some really cool features that I'm kind of excited about. But it's totally free to do most of what we're doing. But if you end up paying for it, then they give us a kickback or whatever. So either way, take a look at it. It's cool, and it doesn't cost you anything unless you want it to. So yeah, that's it. All right. Have a good weekend, everybody. Go make stuff whether you feel like it or not, and we will see you on Monday.